Hi, I'm Mary.
And I'm Jane, and together we are Mendolicious. So if you're new to our channel and you want to know how to make our next fabulous recipe, make sure you check in the description, look in the link below to follow our science video, how to make cannabis butter or cannabis oil, so that you can make the next amazing recipe that we're going to make today, which is deep fried mac and cheese bites. But first, a joke. So this is Mary's joke. She won't tell it because... So there's two cows in a field, and one cow says to the other cow, hey, did you hear about that mad cow disease that's going around? And the other cow says, yeah, you have to be really careful about who you hang up with. And the first cow goes, thank God I'm a squirrel. Thank God I'm a squirrel. Seriously, that was your joke? That was your joke. Okay, so we are gonna make deep fried mac and cheese bites today. This is a piece of cake. So you're gonna fill up this pan with water, and then you're going to take short pasta. So get like an elbow, or if you can find these little guys, they look like this. They're like little barrel shaped. These are really cool because they're small. You're gonna have to cut these up. So you don't wanna use like a big spiral or a penny or anything like that. Find a small pasta. So you're gonna fill a pan with water. You're gonna take a 16-ounce box of pasta and you're gonna dump in about 10 ounces. I've already done that because if I have to show you how to boil water and cook pasta, I can't help you. So we've already boiled our water, we've already boiled our pasta, we've already strained our pasta. Get the pasta off this. So now we're gonna take that same pan that you started the pasta in. Here it is. So here's the pasta already boiled. So you're gonna go ahead and heat up the same pan. You're gonna take a 1/4 stick of regular butter, unadulterated, nice and boring, nice and plain. And that's, woo! And then you're gonna take your, where is it? Mary Jane butter. Okay, so you wanna take your Mary Jane butter out. Let it come up to about room temperature. You're gonna melt this butter. Don't put this in the pan when you're melting. Let this butter come to temperature first. So you wanna get it all the way melted down. And while you're waiting, you wanna take out a 1/4 cup and you wanna measure about a 1/4 cup of this. So you've got a 1/2 stick of regular butter and you're gonna go a 1/4 cup of Mary Jane butter because that's equivalent to a 1/2 stick. So you want to get that butter melting. That's melting real nice. Get it all the way melted before you add the cannabis. And again, this is something you can mix and match. If you wanted to make this recipe with all cannabis butter, you could. If you wanted to cut the cannabis butter amount in half, that's fine. You can play with it and decide how much you want to adulterate it. So once your regular butter is melted, go ahead and add your cannabis butter. It's just like a party in a can right there, but there's no can. So get it all in there. Okay, now you're gonna take a 1/3 cup of regular flour. So you've got the butter melting. Melt, melt, melt. It's looking really, really good in there. You're gonna take a 1/3 cup of regular flour. It's not an exact science, it's really not. Mac and cheese is something that it's super easy to make. I make it all the time. So basically about a 1/3 cup of flour. You wait until your butter's all melted, you dump it in, bang, 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 bang. And then you take a whisk. I love this. Can I just have you follow me around and I can just hand you shit all day? It's just so amazing. Go ahead and take a whisk, 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 whisk. And you want to really stir again, all I can see is my arms moving. You want to really stir that up so that the flour incorporates into the butter. If it looks too liquidy, if you're like, oh, that looks kind of wet, brace yourself. Just throw a little more flour in there. It's all right. It's really hard to screw up mac and cheese. You have to work at it. If you pass the boiling pasta test and you were able to arrive at this stage, you can make it home. I promise you, you're gonna make it. So I threw in a little more flour because that seemed a little light. You're gonna make it until what's called a roux, which would be French for I don't know, which is basically butter and flour cooking in a pan. You want to cook it for a minute or two. It's going to thicken, which is exactly what it's doing. Basically, when you drag the whisk through it, you can see marks. If it's completely liquid, it won't leave a mark. Gets a little more done, and then you're going to go ahead and take milk. Now, I'm just going to say it right now. Don't use soy milk. Seriously. If you don't want to use a milk product, don't make mac and cheese. Don't do that to yourself. It's not going to taste good. And if you're soy milk farmers, I'm really sorry. So go ahead and take milk, and again, I'm not measuring this perfectly because it's mac and cheese, really hard to screw up. So it's about 1.5 cups of milk for that much butter. You essentially have a full stick's worth of butter, you have a 1/3 cup of flour, you've got about 1.5 cups of milk. That goes in there, and it's gonna ruin what you just started. Now your beautiful thick roux is gonna look all watery and thin, and that's okay. So you're gonna have to let that cook for a little bit. You're gonna let it, make sure that the temperature is on about medium heat. Crepe-a-thon mustard. So you want to use, I like mustard in my mac and cheese. You don't have to put it in there. I just think it adds like a nice little bit of kick to it. You can put fresh herbs in it. You can put Worcestershire sauce in it. I like to put a little dollop of mustard because I think it tastes good. So I put that in there. I'm gonna put a little bit of pepper. I'm gonna put a little bit of salt. Okay, so now you've got your mixture looking pretty good, nice and smooth, nice and thick. Go ahead and grab your cheese. I like to cube it because I think shredding is just a total pain in the ass. The shredder's all weird. I get my knuckles in there, and then you gotta put a sponge up there, and it just takes forever, and I lose interest, and I get bored, and it's awful. So you're just gonna melt it, just cube it. Just cube it. I use cheddar and jack. You can use any combination you want. Any firm cheese, don't stick brie in there because it's too melty. Any cube cheese, cube it on up. Start making it all googly moogly. It's gonna be awesome. Give it a quick stir. You wanna get your heat up to about medium. It's gonna take about 5 minutes to melt the cheese. You wanna keep it moving. If your mixture looks too chunky and thick, toss a little more milk in there. Again, it's really hard to screw up. You've got cheese, you've got butter, you've got cannabis. I mean, no matter what you do, I mean, seriously, you could just like roll it in a piece of tinfoil and make a burrito out of it, and it's gonna taste good at this point. Actually, that would be delicious. Do you wanna make a cheese burrito later? Me and you. So you're gonna put that pasta in there. We're gonna imagine that the cheese is all melted. And then you're gonna push that pasta into the bowl. Get it all in there. It's gonna be amazing. Your boobs are so huge, they're in my way every time I move. So at this point, probably wanna switch from a whisk to, that's a mess. Glad I'm not on cleanup duty. You want to mix it in, and you want to get that really well incorporated. The cheese will look stringy, gooey, delicious. It smells good. At this point, if you want to taste a little bit, and you can always add a little bit more salt and pepper, toss in some fresh herbs. Don't add any more flour. And you really want it to be pretty sticky. This kind of mac and cheese bite, it's not the same as a regular mac and cheese. You're gonna chill it overnight and you're gonna cut it into squares. So if you've made mac and cheese before and it's been kind of wet, this is your opportunity to have a dry Sahara Desert-like mac and cheese. So that's what I mean by dry. It's a little dry. It's not as a gooey, creamy kind of thing. So basically, get that all done. And then once it's done, you are gonna take a pan that's big enough. You are going to grease your pan. Now normally you wouldn't do that for mac and cheese because who cares? But you're gonna grease the pan because you've gotta let this guy sit in there overnight, or at least for an hour. And you're gonna go ahead and spread this mixture into the pan, and then you're gonna put that mixture into the fridge, and then you're gonna have an example that looks, this is literally my favorite part, like this. So then, this has been chilling, so it's all done. And next, you're gonna do something kind of cool. So we're gonna move our stuff out of the way. So you're gonna take panko breadcrumbs. Don't cheap out. Don't get the Italian contadina breadcrumbs. The panko breadcrumbs have a lighter, fluffier texture. They're gonna make your mac and cheese bite crispy, crunchy. Find the panko breadcrumbs. Doesn't have to be this brand. Panko, it's Japanese, they're cool. And you're gonna take some flour for dredging, and you're gonna take a beaten egg. So you have all those beautiful things lined out. You're gonna take a cookie sheet. I like to put parchment paper on it because it makes me feel important, and maybe that I trained in France, which I didn't. But also parchment paper keeps everything clean. It just makes your cleanup easier. Then you're gonna take your mac and cheese that's already prepared, and you're gonna get a sharp knife. Cue, sharp knife. Meanwhile, while your lovely assistant gets a sharp knife, you are going to get a frying pan, put it on the stove, get some oil, use a vegetable oil. You could theoretically use cannabis oil for this, but don't you have shit to do this month? Seriously, think it through. I think the butter is enough. I'm just warning you. Technically, you could fry this in cannabis oil. I don't know, you might have a job, just saying. So I'm gonna put the oil over there, probably gonna drop shit on the floor. So basically what you wanna do is you wanna cut your mac and cheese, pretend that they were tiny skimpy brownies. So you're gonna go ahead and cut them. And that's why you have to make your mixture kind of sticky, and that's why you have to let it really chill, because it has to be pretty firm. In a perfect world, you would have an assistant who actually knows what a spatula looks like. But basically, you're gonna wedge out a mac and cheese bite, and they're gonna look kind of like a square. So you wanna go ahead and cut a bunch of them into triangles. So go ahead and turn on your oven. Make sure you drag your hair in your food because that's super appetizing for your guests. Yum. Go ahead and give your pan a pretty good sized glug of oil. You do not need to put these in a deep fryer, not necessary. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna go ahead and do the old dredge trick. So basically, let me mix these around here. You want flour, egg wash, panko breadcrumbs. So I'm gonna put you in charge of that because you're so fantastic at this. So basically, dredge it, which just means roll it in flour. Tap it on the side. You're gonna make a bit of a mess. Put it in the egg. Fingers are gonna get wet and sticky. Don't freak out. Put it in the breadcrumbs, and you can kind of just load them on the breadcrumbs. You wanna get the excess flour off because otherwise it will just inhibit your friability. And do that. Get it in the breadcrumbs. Make it all beautiful. Now, you're gonna very gently drop that into the oil. And if the oil's hot enough, it'll start to fizzle, which it's doing. So get a metal spatula, not a plastic spatula. I mean, come on, think it through. So metal spatula, move them around a little bit. You want to let them make sure that they're getting oily and crunchy on one side. You can see it, the edges will start to dry out. I mean, you've probably fried something before, even if it's just an egg, the edge gets a little dry. Give it about a minute, you know, and again, this is your work time. So while you're doing this, your assistant who just has completely checked out on you is staring into space thinking about her cow joke could be making more mac and cheese bites. Okay, look at how golden it is. That looks beautiful. So basically, golden, okay? That's the color that you want. So flip it over, and if that's the color that you're seeing, flip all of them over. So basically, you want to line your plate with the paper towel, and these are looking done. They look perfect. So you want to go ahead and gently lift them out, set them on the paper towel so that they can drain so that they're not oily. And you know, they're gonna be a little roly-poly. One might land on the floor, don't eat it. Or if you eat it, don't tell anybody. And then, boom, just like that. And then you've already very cleverly and effectively used your time wisely to make apparently one mac and cheese bite for your next frying batter.